Every year, I put a lot of effort into planning a family vacation. It's become a cherished tradition, one of those things that binds us together and keeps the family close despite our busy lives. I love seeing everyone relaxed, sharing laughs, and making memories. It's something I do for the family, not just for myself. This year, I started planning early, reaching out to everyone around Easter to figure out the best time that worked for the most people. It's a juggling act every time, coordinating schedules, trying to find a sweet spot where we can all get away. After back-and-forth discussions, we all agreed that a winter vacation was the best option. Everyone was on board except my son and daughter-in-law, who said those dates didn't work for them. I even proposed alternate dates, but they couldn't make those either. It wasn't ideal, but I figured, fine, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We've had years where not everyone could make it, and while that's disappointing, life happens, right? So I moved forward with the rest of the family. Usually, our vacations are something we can drive to, a cabin in the mountains, a beach house, nothing too fancy but always cozy and fun. This year, though, the adults in the family decided it was time to do something special. The kids are finally old enough to handle a bigger trip, so we thought, why not make it an adventure and leave the country? Europe came up as the dream destination, and the idea stuck. Everyone got excited, and it felt like a great way to elevate our family tradition. So, I booked the flights, reserved the accommodations, and finalized the itinerary. I paid for the lodging myself because I always try to contribute something extra when I can. Everyone was excited, and everything was locked in. Because my son and DIL had said they couldn't come, they weren't part of the planning group chat. I didn't think much of it, they had made their choice, and the rest of us were set to go. Then, about a week ago, my DIL calls me, and her tone is completely different. She's suddenly all interested, asking about the plans, where we're staying, and what she needs to do to join. It caught me off guard, so I asked how she managed to get the time off, given that she originally said she couldn't come. She gave me a vague answer about work things changing, but I wasn't buying it. It felt off, like she just wasn't interested in going until she realized this wasn't just another local getaway but a full-blown European adventure. I couldn't shake the feeling that she and my son had brushed off the trip when they thought it was something they could easily skip. But Europe? That was different, and suddenly, they wanted in. I get it, who wouldn't want to come along once they heard? But it wasn't fair, and it definitely didn't sit right with me. I told her that it was too late to change the plans. Everything was booked, tickets were bought, and accommodations were set. We'd have to upgrade to fit 2 more adults, which would mean a significant extra cost, and I'd already spent more than I planned by covering all the lodging. I told her I wasn't willing to pay more, and honestly, I didn't see why I should have to accommodate them last minute. She didn't take it well. She said I was being cruel for excluding them from a family trip, especially one happening around Christmas. She kept pushing, saying we could find a way if we really wanted to, but I stayed firm. I told her it is what it is, and that it wasn't my fault they weren't going. They had said no, after all. Shortly after, my son called, livid. He accused me of playing favorites and said that I could easily afford to make room for them. Sure, he's right, I could cover the cost, but that's not the point. It's not about the money, it's about the principle. They had their chance, and they chose not to go. Now that everything is in motion, it's not fair to the rest of the family, or to me, to rearrange plans just because they've changed their minds. I reiterated what I told his wife, it's too late, and I'm not making exceptions. My son lost his temper, called me a jerk, and hung up on me. Now, I'm sitting here questioning myself. I've always tried to do right by my family, to keep us close and make sure everyone feels included, but this just feels different. Am I really being unreasonable for sticking to my decision and not wanting to change everything at the last minute for them? I don't want to be the villain, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of. Am I the asshole for saying no? What's the best advice you'd give to your younger self? Be kind to the weird kids in school. They might be the ones who feel invisible now, but they're some of the most resilient, creative souls you'll ever meet. You never know whose story you're going to change with a little bit of kindness. As a woman, let me be real with you, if we aren't interested, and you keep chasing, it doesn't make us like you more, it makes us see you as a nuisance. And worse, some might take advantage of you just because you're always around. Don't be that guy. Value yourself enough to walk away. Don't let anyone be the reason you derail your life. Heartbreak sucks, but losing yourself for someone else is worse. Focus on the things that make you whole and happy. I promise, no boy or girl is worth losing sight of who you are. Chill out. That math test? It won't decide the course of your life, even if it feels like it now. In a few years, you'll laugh about how much you stressed over it. Take a breath. It's not that deep. Start saving money early. Financial habits are like seeds, you plant them now and they grow into trees that'll either bear fruit or throw shade over your future. Learn to manage your money when you have little so you can handle it when you have a lot. Believe in yourself. Seriously, you can do so much more than you think. When you fall, don't wallow in self-pity. Dust yourself off, learn from it, and keep pushing forward. Every setback is just setting you up for a comeback. Stop measuring your worth against others. Their journey is theirs, and yours is your own. You are incredible in ways that can't be compared. Focus on being the best version of you. Stop giving a damn about what everyone else thinks. It's your life, your path. Talent takes time, skills take patience, and nothing worthwhile comes easy. Stick with it, through the grind and the doubt. You'll get there. Have fun. Don't sacrifice the moments that make you smile just to keep your grades up. Sleepovers, late-night talks, and spontaneous adventures are worth way more than a perfect report card. I've made mistakes, sure. And there's a lot I could change if I went back. But I wouldn't give my younger self advice. Not because I didn't need it, but because I wouldn't have listened. Life is messy, and we have to live through the chaos to learn anything worthwhile. The path we take, right or wrong, shapes who we are, and I wouldn't trade those lessons for anything. People lie, cheat, and disappoint. It's just how it is. Learn to recognize who's genuine. And for God's sake, start lifting weights. Your sister's wrong, it won't stunt your growth. Build that strength inside and out, you'll need it. Those who've screwed up the most often have the best advice, because they've seen how quickly things can go wrong. Don't let anxiety paralyze you. In 5 years, you'll be 5 years older whether you've accomplished anything or not. So finish the degree, learn the trade, pursue the art, just do something. Regret is worse than any failure. Comparison will rob you of joy. Focus on your own lane. The only competition that matters is the one between who you are now and who you want to become. Stand up straight, look up from your phone, and keep your feet moving forward. Never gamble away your future, and don't drown your sorrows in a bottle every night. You don't get as many choices in life as you think. So if something feels right, go for it. Don't wait for the stars to align. The perfect moment doesn't exist, so take the leap. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be this: slow down. The race to success is a marathon, not a sprint. Growth is messy, unpredictable, and often uncomfortable, but every failure is just another lesson in disguise. Invest in the relationships and activities that bring you joy. Because when everything else falls away, those are the things that will keep you going. Now it's your turn. What advice would you give your younger self, or to the young people of today? Cult encounter. It's strange how the most ordinary nights can spiral into something you'd never expect. This all happened a few years ago in Prijedor, a quiet town in Bosnia where everyone knows everyone, or at least, we think we do. It was a warm July evening, the kind where the air feels heavy and the streets are calm, echoing the lazy hum of summer. I was riding my bike, enjoying the solitude, when a bearded man stepped into my path, waving me down. He was in his late 40s, scruffy but with a friendly demeanor that didn't immediately set off any alarm bells. He had this way of talking that drew you in, like every word was meant just for you. We started chatting, and he seemed genuinely nice, asking about my life and talking about the town like he'd been there forever. I didn't think twice about the odd familiarity he showed. After all, in a small place like Priador, people always seem to know more about you than they should. But just as I was about to leave, he threw me a curveball. He said he wanted to introduce me to his daughter. There was something unsettling about the way he said it, but I brushed it off as some awkward joke. I gave him a polite smile, made an excuse, and pedaled away, feeling the unease settle but not quite understanding why. Months went by, and I forgot about the bearded man. It wasn't until a frigid November night that he reappeared. Snow had blanketed the town, and the streets were slick and empty, the kind of cold that makes you wish you'd never left the house. My friend Amir and I were trudging through the snow, headed to the local convenience store to grab some snacks, when we saw him again. He was standing outside the old house of Mr. Jovic, an elderly man who'd been living there as long as I could remember. The bearded guy waved us over, his breath fogging in the icy air. "You boys look frozen. Come inside and warm up," he said, gesturing to the house behind him. I hesitated, my breath catching in my throat. That house was well known in town. Everyone knew Mr. Jovic, the grumpy but kind old man who kept to himself. The bearded guy caught my hesitation and quickly explained. "I'm his son. My dad's on vacation, and I'm watching the place while he's gone." He spoke so casually, so naturally, that for a moment, I believed him. The story checked out. It wasn't unusual for people to step in for their aging parents. But something in his eyes made me pause, that same unsettling feeling from July creeping back in. I glanced through the window and saw a young girl inside, the granddaughter of Mr. Jovic. I'd seen her before around town, and her presence put me at ease. If she was there, everything must be fine, right? Amir seemed unfazed, already heading inside to escape the cold, so I followed. The bearded man made us tea, and we warmed up in the dimly lit living room. Everything seemed ordinary, pictures of the old man's family on the walls, the faint smell of wood smoke in the air. I started to relax, telling myself this was just a good Samaritan helping his dad out. We left a short while later, saying our goodbyes and heading to the store. On the way back, Amir's girlfriend happened to drive by and offered us a lift, saving us from the freezing walk home. We were joking around in the car, talking about nothing in particular when two police cars came roaring down the street, lights flashing, sirens piercing through the night. We all turned to watch, but in a small town like ours, police presence wasn't exactly unheard of. Maybe a domestic dispute, a car accident, nothing that seemed connected to us. But as we turned the corner toward Mr. Jovic's house, our chatter died in our throats. There, right in front of the house, were 3 more police cars, their lights reflecting off the snow like a chaotic dance of red and blue. Officers were everywhere, some speaking urgently into radios, others looking around as if searching for something or someone. I felt my heart rate quicken, my mind racing to piece together what was happening. We stopped the car, watching in stunned silence as the scene unfolded. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Mr. Jovic was, indeed, on vacation, just as the bearded man had claimed. But everything else? A lie. The bearded guy wasn't his son, not even a relative. He had forced his way into the house, coercing the old man's daughter and granddaughters to play along as his pretend family. He'd been living there, controlling them through threats and manipulation. I felt my stomach drop as I realized how close we'd come to something far more sinister. It turned out that the daughter had taken a chance that night while he was distracted. She slipped away, called the police, and begged for help. But by the time the police arrived, the bearded man had already fled into the night, vanishing as quickly as he had appeared. We drove away in stunned silence, my mind replaying every interaction, every red flag I had ignored. That night, I barely slept. Around 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of banging on my front door. I shot up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. When I peeked through the window, I saw him, the bearded man, his face twisted with anger, yelling something unintelligible. His fists pounded on the door, each knock echoing like a thunderclap in the still night. I stumbled back, heart racing, and immediately called the police. By the time they arrived, he was gone, leaving only the eerie silence and the icy fear that clung to me. The weeks that followed were a blur of anxiety and paranoia. Every shadow felt like him, every unfamiliar face in town set my nerves on edge. I avoided the old man's house, avoided anything that reminded me of that night. It wasn't until last month that I finally got some semblance of closure. The bearded man had been arrested. He was part of a radical Salafi cult, one of those dangerous offshoots that prey on the vulnerable. His crimes were even darker than I'd imagined: assault, manipulation, marrying a minor. The man was a predator in every sense of the word, hiding behind a facade of warmth and familiarity. I wish I could say that knowing he was caught made everything better, but the truth is, it left scars that still ache. It's unsettling how easily evil can slip into your life, disguised as a friendly stranger on a quiet summer night. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to look beyond the surface of things, and to never underestimate the darkness that can hide behind a smile. I was 16, wild, and reckless, always testing the limits of what I thought I could get away with. Smoking weed was a regular thing for me, a sort of ritual. I'd sneak out to a nearby neighborhood, score my stash, then make my way to the store for blunt wraps. It wasn't the safest part of town, but it was familiar, grimy, worn down, but mine in a strange way. I knew every crack in the sidewalk, every alley, every shortcut. Or so I thought. That day, something felt wrong. It wasn't the kind of feeling you notice right away, but more of an itch under the skin, like someone had flipped a switch in the background of my reality, and I hadn't caught on yet. I chalked it up to being high as I took my usual shortcut through an abandoned apartment complex. It was the kind of place that breathed decay, the windows dark, shattered, doors hanging off their hinges, the walls covered in graffiti that looked more like screams for help than art. I never saw anyone around there, which is why I used it. A shortcut that always felt like it belonged to me alone. Until I saw him. He was standing there, in the middle of the courtyard, as if waiting for me. Crisp suit, spotless shoes, and an unsettling, cold smile plastered across his face. He looked like he'd stepped out of another world, something too clean for a place so dirty, and that contrast hit me like a brick. Everything about him screamed wrong, but I didn't stop. I didn't say a word. I just kept walking, my heart beginning to pound in my chest as his eyes followed me. "Hey, how's it going?" he asked, voice smooth as velvet, but there was something dead behind it, something that crawled under my skin and set off every alarm in my body. I ignored him, quickening my pace, pretending he wasn't there, though I could feel his gaze burning holes into the back of my head. This wasn't a place where men like him existed. Not here. Not in that suit. He didn't belong, and deep down, I knew that meant I didn't belong anymore either. Not in that moment. I rushed to the store, bought my blunt wraps, and tried to shake the encounter off. Maybe he was just some weirdo, lost or something. But when I started heading back, my heart sank into my stomach. There it was, a white truck, parked at the corner of the same apartment building. The windows were dark, the engine off, but I could feel it. I could feel him watching me. I hesitated. My usual route would have taken me right past that truck, but something, some primal instinct, screamed at me to take the long way, to stick to the busy street. My feet moved before my brain could catch up, carrying me away from the apartment complex and onto the main road, where at least there were cars passing by, people in the distance. For a moment, I felt safe, like I'd outsmarted whatever nightmare was lurking behind that truck. But then I heard it, the growl of the engine roaring to life. The white truck veered onto the street behind me, creeping closer. I glanced over my shoulder, my pulse quickening as it pulled up alongside me. The window rolled down, and before I could react, that same man leaped out, fast, too fast. His hands were on me, rough and cold, yanking me off the sidewalk like I weighed nothing at all. I didn't even have time to scream. Everything happened in flashes. His grip on my arms, the sidewalk disappearing beneath me as he lifted me into the air, my body useless against his strength. I kicked, thrashed, tried to elbow him in the face, but nothing worked. My voice was stuck in my throat, fear choking me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It was like drowning in slow motion, watching the world disappear around me as the truck's door swung open, ready to swallow me whole. And then, out of nowhere, I heard her. "Put her down. Put her down now." It was a voice that sliced through the fog of terror clouding my mind. I twisted in his grasp and saw her, a woman I'd seen countless times around the city. She was always there, wandering aimlessly, strung out on God knows what. Her face was gaunt, her eyes wild, and her clothes hung on her like rags, but there was a fire in her eyes that burned hotter than the fear gripping my heart. She charged at us, screaming, hands flailing, her voice raw and furious. Something about her, this chaotic, drug-ravaged woman charging at him, made the man hesitate. His grip loosened, just enough for me to wrench myself free. He let me go. He actually let me go. For a moment, we both stood there, stunned, like the world had frozen. And then he bolted back to his truck, the tires screeching as he sped off, vanishing into the distance as if he'd never been there at all. I collapsed on the sidewalk, my body shaking uncontrollably, my mind barely registering what had just happened. That woman, she just stood there, staring at me, her chest heaving with the effort of her outburst. And then, without a word, she turned and walked away, back into the shadows, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something terrifying and real. I knew, in that moment, that I'd come inches from disappearing, from becoming another lost girl, another missing poster taped to a telephone pole. Years passed, and I never forgot her, the woman who saved my life. I'd see her around town, still lost in the fog of addiction, and every time I did, I felt a pang of guilt, of gratitude, of something I couldn't quite name. So I started helping her. Small things at first, food, water, a little money. Eventually, I saved enough to send her to rehab. I didn't think she'd go, but she did. She fought her demons, clawed her way out, and somehow, against all odds, she made it. Today, she's sober, reunited with her grandchildren, and working a steady job. She doesn't remember me, or that day, but I remember her. She was the one thing standing between me and a fate too horrible to imagine. And I've never walked alone since.